I can do that. When it gets dark, I can do that. Hello again. It's dark now. So I was asked to go into detail about the lighting that I use out here. And I figured tonight would be a good night to do it. I had to work pretty much all day, so I couldn't be out here working on anything. So I figured this would be a good night to do it. I've got pretty much all the lighting done, so let's get started. So for those of you who didn't already know this, I have a background in film and video production. That's what I went to school for, that's what I know how to do. And so I have a knowledge of lighting and everything, and I kind of apply some of that to this to sort of make things look how I want them to. Now that's not to say that this is anything super advanced, this isn't anything that's out of reach. Just kind of explaining my background so that you know how I got to where I am here. So as I'm sure you've probably noticed, the majority of the cemetery and the house is washed in blue. This whole side of the cemetery is mostly blue. It looks kind of purple on camera. It's kind of hard to accurately represent that. But this whole side is blue, and that whole side over there is blue, and then that blue spills onto the house. For this blue, I just use these LED blue floodlights that I got from Walmart. I want to say they were only $7 or $8, not very expensive at all. And I use the floodlights so that it does exactly what you would think, and it just floods the whole area in blue. And then I use green LED spotlights, and these are pretty much all from Spirit Halloween, which, side note, I don't want to speak badly about Spirit because they have some pretty cool stuff, but I would not recommend using their lighting. I've had some not so great experiences with these spotlights. They don't seem to last very long. I have to replace usually 2 or 3 spotlights every year. So I've been trying to do some research and find some better alternatives that won't completely cause me to go broke. So this is what I use. So that's what I use. If you can afford something better, I would suggest that. But anyway, so I take the green spotlights and I use these to kind of just highlight certain things. For example, on this side, I really wanted you to be able to see the zombie back there. He's kind of the focal point of this side of the cemetery. So this green spotlight is directed right at him so that he kind of stands out of the rest of the area, which is blue. And then the cool thing is some of that green light spills onto other stuff, and it creates these cool effects where there's multicolored shadows and stuff like that. And then on this side of the cemetery, I pretty much did the same thing. I have this green spotlight that points straight up to this gravestone. And I did that because I wanted to highlight the crow sitting on top of the cross. I probably should have another green spotlight highlighting the zombie back there, but unfortunately I ran out of spotlights. So I just decided to do the cross. And the cool thing is that green light, a lot of it spills up into the tree, which makes kind of a cool effect. We've never really lit up this tree before, and having that mixture of the blue and the green I think looks pretty cool. So then, as far as the entrance goes and the pathway, I highlight that in green so that it really stands out. I wanted to make it obvious where you're supposed to walk as opposed to where you're not supposed to walk. So basically, green means go, blue means don't go. So you walk through there, which all lit up in green, and then of course the sign itself is lit in green to help it stand out from the blue throughout the rest of the cemetery. So as far as the cemetery itself goes, that's pretty much why I did it the way I did. Now, here's a little bit of a lighting color lesson for you. You may already know this. If you look at a color wheel, colors that are opposite from each other are considered complementary colors. This is why a lot of times you'll see movie posters that have a lot of blue and orange, or I've been seeing a lot of music videos lately that are kind of like teal and purple. They're being directly across from each other. It's pleasing to the eye. I don't really necessarily know the science behind this, but that is the thing. That's the general rule of thumb, that the opposite colors are considered complementary to each other. So, having said all that, since most of the cemetery is blue, I like to throw in a lot of oranges and reds as a sort of like as a contrast. So whereas the green sort of highlights certain areas, the oranges and the reds make it completely separate. I hope this is making sense. So obviously on the entrance, I have the flaming LED lights here. I'll put a link in the description where you can get these. I had someone else ask me where they came from, and I found these through Haunter's Hangout. Somebody had posted a link to these several months ago, and I just knew I had to have them. It's pretty hard to accurately show on camera, but these bulbs are actually just an array of LEDs that flash in a sequence to make it look like flames. So obviously, that orange contrasts pretty nicely with the bluish light lighting up the columns. And then we have the food drive coffin, which we definitely want to stand out from everything else, so I have that lit in red. And then similarly we have, you know, the Wolfman over here who's lit in red. That way he sort of, you know, stands out so you can tell he's completely separate from the cemetery. And actually one thing I think is really cool is since we have the tree being lit this year, I think it's really cool here how one side of the tree is blue, this side of the tree is red, and then it kind of like meshes there in the middle to make purple. I think that's really cool. Again, it's really hard to accurately show these colors on camera. In person, that purple is a lot more noticeable. But anyway, so that's why these are lit up in red. And then as far as these light bulbs go, they're pretty much just LED bulbs. This is just a standard LED, and this over here is just a bigger LED floodlight. So that's why these two areas are lit in red. And then my favorite thing as far as the lighting goes is the orange on the house, because as I said, orange is opposite from blue, so those colors are really complementary. So I put orange, those are actually like really cheap tablecloths that I got from Party City, and I just taped those over the windows so that the light from inside of the house lights it up. And then we had the orange rope light going along the roof, and I just really like that contrast between the blue and the orange. I think it looks really good. And then of course we have all the pumpkins placed throughout the cemetery and on the gates and everything. I haven't been lighting those up every night because each one of these is lit by its own individual tea light. So if I turn this around, you can see I have these little openings in the back, and each pumpkin has its own little LED tea light. Which, of course, again, the orange contrasts with the blue to make it look really nice. So you can imagine on Halloween night, once we have all these pumpkins lit up, you'll be having all the little orange faces shining throughout, which will look pretty nice. Oh, and also I wanted to mention these lights that I'm using to light up the columns. So these were my attempt at trying to find a new way of lighting things. As I said, these spirit spotlights tend to die on me after only a year or two. So I was trying some alternatives. These were some pretty cheap LED floodlights that I found on Amazon that were only about like $15 each, as opposed to the like the 25 and 30 that those cost at Spirit. So I got these and I plugged them up, put them in front of the columns here, and I thought they looked fantastic. But there's one major flaw with these lights. So they came with one of these remotes so that you can change all the colors, and that's kind of what made me really want these, because I can have them be any color I want. I could have them be red or green or blue or whatever I want, and I decided on this like bluish white, which I thought looked best. However, here's the issue. So as you saw, I just set those to white. I set them to the color that I want them to be. Now let's say it's the end of the night, we're turning everything off. So turning everything off for the night, right? And then fast forward, it's the following evening, and we go to turn them back on. Watch this. I have not cut this video at all. This is still one long take. And take a look at these lights. They have now reverted to their default setting, which is this, which just kind of like fades through all the different colors. So basically, these lights don't have any sort of memory. They don't remember what you set them to, which I feel like is a pretty big design flaw. I didn't realize that when I bought these. And I mean, just having these two, it's easy enough to every night when we turn them on, come out here and set them to where I want them. But if I were to use these to light the entire cemetery, that would get old really fast if I had to go through every single night and set every single light to the color I want it to be. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm still searching myself for the best brand of lights. But yeah, so that is my lighting in the cemetery and why I do it the way I do. I also forgot to mention that for the first time this year, I don't remember if I actually shown this or not. We've never done this before, but we put some lights in the backyard to light up the trees behind the house, which I think really adds to the whole overall atmosphere. It makes it feel like it's a lot bigger than it actually is. But yeah, so that's an in-depth look at the lighting that I use and why. I mean, there's still a few other things, you know. There's the short circuit bulb that I put on the front porch, which is there just for like a, you know, another little special effect sort of thing to give a creepy feeling. And then over here in the garage, as you saw, we have the chandelier, which is there just, you know, that's for the theme, so that's not necessarily the same every year. By the way, it is freezing cold outside. It's gotten down to like 48, which for here is very, very cold. My southern body is not used to this. Also, I don't know if you can hear, there's like people down the road shouting for some reason. But having said all that, this is where I'm going to end the video for tonight. Like I said, I worked all day, so I didn't get to come out here and really do anything. So, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.